Hi folks, Daren from Init6 here. And today's video is a recording from an interview that we did with someone who is a leading light really in the network automation space right now. He's been a long-term advocate of using Ansible for network automation projects. He's done a lot of work and got a lot of practical experience. So it's always interesting to speak to. But recently has taken a bit of a shift in his interest into deeper programmability because of the speed advantages and the flexibility that it brings. But I tell you what, I'll let him tell you about that. Let's go speak to John Capobianco. Would you like to tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. So thanks for having me today. And I've joined the Canadian House of Commons, the Parliament of Canada, about 8 years ago to bring in a new campus network, followed by a data center, followed by the wide area network, followed by perimeters and security and zoning. The entire big vision
I was
of
just going to say, that sounds like the whole network you've replaced there, right?
yes, an entire network that the government and the Parliament body, they invested in themselves and realized that the whole, they wanted to digitize, to use some of Cisco's language. They wanted to digitize Parliament, right? So not I don't want to disparage it, what it was like when I joined, right? We can focus on the green field and not the brown field, but everything from wireless to voice over IP to digital committees, like actually transforming the business. So when we onboard a new member of parliament today versus say 8 years ago, they're handed a tablet with a portal and it's connected through certificates to the Wi-Fi and away they go. They're not handed 4 or 5 paper-based binders of the procedures and their budgets and how they act as members of parliament. And that's one small thing, right? You can imagine everything else that's been digitized to the point where the food production has a smart stove on our network now, like a cloud connected stove, right? So from a flat layer 2 VLAN to a hyper connected, highly secure, highly virtualized, zone based, you name it, with all of the technologies at play here. We're in the cloud, we're doing just amazing things. And it's funny, I had some warnings, right? You're going to go to the public sector, you're going to join the federal government and let your career just die on the vine. But it's been the opposite. Like I've actually been exposed to the bleeding edge technology, and we've really created, a world class network, right?
So I take it you were a network engineer before that, and you've done plenty of different implementations, qualified, certified, the usual thing, right?
Yeah, so that's a good point. Professionally, how I managed to get on to this amazing team to, reimagine the house's network. I was in the private sector for a Canadian top 10 insurance company. And more or less, it's funny, doing the same thing, digitizing their environment with mainly Cisco technologies. And yes, I'm a 2-time ccnp in data center and route switch, and a 5-time specialist. I still have my Microsoft certified enterprise admin, ITIL. I love technology and learning and studies, and I'm currently working on the new devnet. I'm a little behind because I've been living their practices more than reading their books to study for the exam. So it's a balance there, right? But I think I'm ready soon enough. I'll be ready to take on the devnet exams.
You fit straight in with the team. Because we're all exactly the same. We're all gnarly old network engineers, apart from the good-looking ones like Abdel. But the rest of us have kind of, like you say, lived it, breathed it from a network perspective, and are now grappling with, and at varying different stages. Some of the guys are further than others, but about trying to get up to speed and get into this thing. That's called devnet. The whole different way of working, really. And yeah, it sounds like you're you're leading the way from what I can gather. So do you want to give us a bit of a sort of history of that as well? It'd be useful.
Yeah, so the everything sort of, it's funny how the world, opportunities arise, right? And as from Sun Tzu, right? Opportunities multiply as you seize them, right? So
True.
I went to DevNet as well as a mixture of IP space net training from Ivan and DevNet, and actually at DevNet at Cisco Live. I think it was 2016, wherever the one Aerosmith was at in San Diego, and they introduced me to Ansible at the time. And it really stuck with me, some of the things. So then in my professional life, we had a massive production change that was just going to be, it was going to be a full weekend of CLI by CLI if we did it the old way, right? Now, this was both a mistake and a success, right? Maybe the wrong thing to start with our automation, a high impacting, highly complex, highly orchestrated production change. But necessity is the mother of invention, and we needed to do something different about this change. So I wrote the playbooks and we automated it with great success, but it didn't still hadn't clicked. I was still using Notepad to write my YAML files and TFTPing these over to a Linux host. And tell me if this sounds familiar, like a network engineer trying to do automation with no grounding. That was never in any of my studies or books or anything. So I attacked it like I would. I'm going to make a Notepad file. I'm going to SFTP it over to a Linux box. I'm going to run the play. And if it fails, well, then I'll send it back and edit it back and forth, right? Which leads to working _new version 3 tested here .text, right? All these different file names, and it's not the way to go, right? So fortunately, the lead developer in my organization, he had heard about the automation success, and it was great. And he kind of pulled me under his wing and said, listen, let's get you a Git repository, right? Brand new to me, inside of Azure DevOps. Wow, Azure DevOps. And you're going to start to use VS Code to write your code, right? And we'll get you some extensions. So he really set me on the path to success.
Fantastic.
And that is when it really started to click and we really gained momentum. Now, that was, let's say 2017 through to about 3 weeks ago. Everything has been Ansible for me. And I self-published a book. I've been an evangelist for the technology. And I want to be clear, I'm not disparaging their technology, but I wanted to play with some new tools that were available from mainly the Cisco testing automation suite, the CTAS, they called it. They're, oddly enough, the developers of their solution are here in Ottawa with me. And the Cisco branch, I could probably see it through a window over there. They're very close. And they graciously said, let's introduce you to this new Pythonic way of doing things.
Right.
And I had a private demo, and from there I started to plug Genie templating into my Ansible, which was kind of a natural evolution, and that was amazing. And then I've just made the full natural transition to say, well, they have a PyATS framework that I can use with Genie. Maybe I can accomplish some of the same things, in a different tool. And that's all that it's been, is a new set of tools, right? Not to say that I'm throwing out the baby with the bathwater. Ansible's still going to have a very large place and footprint in my organization. Right?
I was just going to say, because obviously you've built all of your automation in the organization around that. So it's, and this is part of the conversation we were having earlier, right? About building an ecosystem that's supportable and manageable. And so everyone's familiar with it, and you've got that background. And obviously a key part of any operations is that, right? Is having tooling that everyone can access and support. So
can we go beyond just the email alert, the ccnp, the syslogging? Can we make the network a real member of the team, give it a digital voice, if you will, through API technology primarily? And Python does it very easily, very elegantly. You may have seen the video. I put a video out there, the world's first talking network. And all of that was done in about 30 minutes of me as a novice, an admitted self-admitted Python novice, more or less. From start to finish, I have the phone ringing with an MP3 file of some network state information. And I can only imagine what I'm going to say a real team of Python developers could do with some of this stuff, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're kind of touching on stuff that has been bubbling along, I should imagine, in the minds of a few people, but probably sounds way beyond, into the future for a lot of others, because we're just getting to grips with the idea of automating activity in the network in terms of configuration and that sort of stuff. This is taking that to a whole different level, isn't it? What you're talking about now is changing the way people operate their networks completely, because you're getting a different kind of feedback, and you're taking, I mean, even chat ops, you know, to coin a term, you know, that's a thing, but it's something that still feels bleeding edge in terms of how people are using it. And yet you're going even further than that because of that sort of natural language approach. But it's the art of the possible, right? These things are doable, and so, you know, we need to sort of be considering them.
Yeah, I think we are in the middle of a digital renaissance period where, you know, the Da Vinci's and the different artists are going to emerge with different ideas and perspectives and palettes of, right? We have this canvas, which is a .py file. You know, what landscapes can I plug in? And I need a bit of color here, and I need a for loop there. And it's artistry as much as it is technology. And you know, chatbots, what I really love, it's unfortunate that the internet got a hold of it and people think a chatbot, like I sit on a web trying to get a hold of my ISP because I need support for my router, and then instead of giving me a human, they give me a little bubble in a browser. Kind of, but imagine instead of your, you know, I come from pager ops, where
Right.
the router goes down and my little beeper starts to go off on my nightstand and I respond to it. Well, now it could be a human voice and a nice Canadian accent that speaks very calmly and says, "Good morning, John. I'm sorry to call you at 3 a.m, but the router has gone down and we need your assistance." Right? And then I could actually push number 4 on my phone to run the reboot the modem command, or whatever, you know, whatever you can imagine. Like you said, the art of the possible, right? And I think that, so you really touched on an earlier point when you started. People kind of get stuck on configuration management, right? It's not, they don't call it network configuration automation, right? Like, yes, that's an aspect of it and it's important. And most people default to, can I change the state of my network automatically to reduce OpEx and headcount or whatever it is, to just to be better. But realistically, I mean, yes, maybe some dynamic environments are flying changes out constantly. The network is relatively in a steady state, minus your change windows. But that data, think of the other 23 hours in the day. What is happening to your network, right?
Yeah.
What is the visibility you need? Do you need to react in some way, right?
Yeah, no, and I think that's exactly what I see day to day is that what we end up becoming isn't so much you know, when we're using config management, yes, we're doing zero touch and all of those cool things,
Right.
but that's it is only part of the story. And I think what we're really wanting to do, I think, is become more kind of almost network data scientists, right? Have the data available from the network that we can react to, that we can mine, that we can delve into and associate with other things and move it around and aggregate and consolidate, you know, all of those sorts of things. And that's why programmability, that's why Python and that side of
Right.
things. You know, Ansible is great, like you say, for an element of what we've just described, but you're not going to delve into that data and monkey around with it and move it around and make it work for you in the same way you might do if you've got Python sat there, right?
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I'm not coining this myself. I've heard it around. Network data is the new oil, right? It's the digital oil, and we're in the middle of a gold rush, or
Totally.
right, we've just hit Alaska in the 20s, or California in the, right? Like, we're the first at this frontier. Let's capitalize on it. Let's monetize it if we can. Let's change the fabric of society with these new things. But it's crude oil, right? Like, raw
Right.
data doesn't do you any good in what, some raw unformatted show command text file. That's no good, right? It's not good to anybody.
It needs
But
refining, right?
now I can refine it through JSON and through parsers and through different technologies. Even if you have to regex it yourself, that's fine. Think of the payload of sweet crude oil, of that honey colored gold flowing through your pipes, right? And companies have it. They're sitting on their own gold mine, right? And
Yeah.
companies that are adopt it, right, they have a competitive advantage in the market over companies that are not automating or capitalizing. You're going to be 3 days behind, which turns into a month behind, which is quickly 2 years behind what your competitor is doing. I
Yeah.
called my ISP for a problem the other day. I have them. You know, I've rebooted my modem. What else am I supposed to do? The first thing the phone says is press 1 and we're going to reboot your modem and then call back if this doesn't resolve the problem. Sure enough, I press 1, my modem gets rebooted. I call back because the problem's still there. And they know, oh, your rebooted modem from 10 minutes ago did not resolve your problem. Let me put you through to tech support. And that's what we can really start to do, right?
It just changes, it completely changes the user experience when you use that data in the right way. And this is one of my little pet things, is that you know, I'm a network designer, really. That, you know, I've done the engineer bit, I've done the support bit, I've done the consultancy bit, and network design was always the thing I felt like I should be doing. But then you get to a point and it's like you can only do so many designs. The point is, it's actually how it's going to be consumed is the most important thing of all of this, because you've got to make sure that that network is available to deliver the service that someone needs, right? Otherwise, why is the network even there? Why do you even care? And so anything you can do to improve that consumption experience, whether that's making sure the network never goes down in the first place, or when it does go down, that it's slick and quick to fix it. You know, surely the operations piece is the most important part of it for me.
Absolutely. And think of like life and safety is a checkbox on some of my change requests now. Is this going to affect life and safety systems? Think of your voice. Think of those bubble cameras, your door swipes. It's not standalone analog systems anymore that are closed circuits. They're plugged into some access layer switch in your closet. I mentioned the stove. I mean, how bad would it be if my whole food production collapsed because of some problem at the access layer? Really? But it's going to be ubiquitous. Everything is going to be either on your SSID on Wi-Fi, or it's going to be plugged in, hardwired into some element of your network. Your cooling and heating systems. Do you want that to be cranking air conditioning all winter long and charging you tens of thousands in cooling bills because of a misconfiguration in your network? That's the impact the network is going to have, is everything, Internet of Things. It's just getting started. And then the micro sensor boom and IP6 and everything will be hyper connected. It's you can't, that world, that Jetsons Star Trek world is not people on a 65-year-old command line pretending that are on a teletype. Right? That's just not that. We never get there. We never cross the threshold, right? I don't think we get there. I don't think we evolve technologically and societally and socioeconomically by pinning on, 60-year-old. I'm going to log into 300 devices and type in IP route 000. No, it doesn't work that way anymore, right?
No, it can't, because like you say, it's the complexity of what we're deploying and the complexity of what it's supporting, right? And I think it's just inevitable. We need to change, and we've come this far. And to be fair, you step back 5 years, and it's completely unrecognizable from what it was then. But we've got to a point where we deploy controllers, or we deploy policy engines, and we deploy automation in that way, and that's fantastic. But that only goes so far. I think the next iteration is the feedback, the assurance of the network to make sure that it is actually doing the thing you need it to do.
That's
go on, Abdel.
No, I'm just saying, and that was always the missing piece when we introduced automation, and which we need to. It was a one-way direction, and it is currently also a one-way direction without the feedback loop, saying, well, if what you did or what you actually provisioned is correct, is not affecting other systems, or is not conflicting with the health and safety or the safety of any essential or critical systems in your environment, and that feedback loop is already, so people realizing right now they have a need of that feedback loop, whether this feedback loop is basically passive or interactive, as you did, John, which is something that is taking to the next level, saying, okay, the network should tell me if it's healthy right now or not, and it should tell me with a more interactive human way, or maybe with a workflow that is that's very appealing, and that can give me a succinct type of message saying I am okay, or maybe with a Canadian accent would be great as well. So that's basically the cherry on the top.
Well, I think this is a great discussion, and I think that more people need to hear about this. And the thing I want to leave network engineers with is that it's a lot easier than you'd think. If you've spent your life making BGP neighbors on routers, okay, you can write a for loop in Python. You really can, right? It's not entirely out of the realm of possible to just start doing things a little bit differently. So here's my journey with this. I'm going to do the demo here real quick.
Yeah, that'd be great, actually.
So I started with a simple. When I was in the industry and in the insurance industry, someone in the finance got particularly upset with me that this $60,000 router that they had purchased couldn't give them a human readable spreadsheet of its inventory. Like, they were baffled by this. It can forward traffic to the internet, yeah, and we can connect 200 devices to it. And this is what you're giving me as a show version command in raw text. He was pretty upset about this, right? So what did I have to do? I had to grab all the fields and put them into a spreadsheet manually, field by field, and give them the data, right? So let's start there. Can I take a standard show X command on a platform and transform it into a business ready document? Like a CSV file is the big one, right? The thing that changed the industry in the 80s, the spreadsheet. And then a markdown file we can put up in a GitHub that's nice and rendered and easy to read. And let's go another step and make an actual HTML web page from that data. So that all works, and it's very easy, and the speed is remarkable. I'll show you the speed. And now this is X number of commands, provided there's a parser from the Genie library, and there's hundreds of parsers. So I've done like the top 5: show inventory, show IP interface brief, show int status, etc. And then this is the true story. I'm playing World of Warcraft in Discord with about 30 other people, and my phone is ringing like crazy, and I'm just ignoring it because I'm playing my game, right? So my wife finally comes in and kind of holds the phone here while I'm playing. And, are you going to answer this phone? Okay, so it's the office. There's a problem, and they've been trying to get a hold of me for about 20 minutes on the phone. So then my wife, and this is a marital thing. I understand a veiled threat when I hear one from my wife. She says, wouldn't it be great if we, the collective we, by the way, could get a hold of you in Discord? And we kind of laughed about it. I received the message loud and clear. Maybe I'm spending a little too much time in Discord with my friends. But that's the honest to goodness, that popped in my head. I thought, I bet you there's an API, and I could probably have the network tell me when there's a problem with the network, right? So that's what I did. I set up a webhook in Discord in a couple of minutes, and I had network data coming to me through this Python stuff. So then the next thing, we talked about scaffolding on ideas and how success leads to success and opportunities multiply when you seize them. In Discord, there's a little button that I sort of accidentally stumbled upon that says, read this message or say this message. So any text message in Discord, you can play it through your headset, and Discord will text to speech it. So I thought, wouldn't it be neat if I could just do my own text to speech with the JSON body? I already have it in JSON format to post it somewhere. I just need a text-to-speech API to post it. And turns out there's like dozens of them. Google's got one, Azure's got one. There's third-party free ones. So I picked Google and I connected it to my Google developer, and I had an OAuth key, and hey, it worked. It's a human MP3 file saying, John, the show version or the version of this Catalyst 3850 is blah, blah, blah. So then I have I have to be bilingual at my job in the parliament.
Right, yeah.
So then I sent it to the French Canadian text to speech and got it in French Canadian, right? So then it's just nuts. So then I wake up to a Twitter message from someone in the UK. His name's Rich, who said, have you played with Twilio? It sounds like you already have MP3 files. Yeah. Have you looked into Twilio? So then I was like, I've heard of it, but I thought they were like a back end, industrial grade API. I thought this was for like, big ISPs and stuff in the back end. But then no, they have a front end customer facing type thing. So then It worked. I have it phone my phone and play the message. So I'm going to, let me see if I can share my screen here. It's just, yeah. Here, okay, so this is some of the code in the background, and here's my Python world, and I'm going to just run the play. So it's just a one-line command. I'm using secret strings, by the way. So none of my passwords are in plain text, and they decrypt at runtime. And so this runs. Now, the output on the screen, hey, I heard my Discord go. So my Discord is working, and then let me hold the phone up. Let me just, if this works, in about, you see the phone ringing?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And if I hit accept the call, now I'll have to do this near the microphone. Can I put it on speaker? Now I have the trial account message, but here.
This is being sent from PyATS. The device MG06FSC3A 8 catalyst L3 switch is a WSC 3800.
Can you hear the message? Yeah.
X48U running iOS.
So anyway, it goes on and on with the contents of a show version command. And that was real time. Like I didn't stage any of that. I pressed enter. Now look at, I have the time command. This might be hard to see.
Yeah.
Look at the time. So 10 seconds, which was the screen time. Oh, and by the way, I have all those files I had talked about. We don't need to show them, but I have about 100 files right now as well. CSV, Markdown, HTML for about 6 or 7 commands in 1.2 seconds in CPU. So if I suppressed all this messages, basically by the time the enter button has returned to its normal position on the keyboard, my network is phoning me, right? So think of that, life and safety, hospitals, you name it, military, whatever, right? Or even just your enterprise network. I would love that if my firewall goes down or some that key infrastructure component that you would judge, okay, yes, if I lose that OSPF neighbor, that BGP connection, if I get a PCERT alarm that there's a new 0 day and it matches my show version, call the CISO.
See,
right?
So what you've just done though, you've just identified the real difference here, and that's not because let's face it, monitoring platforms have had the ability to send SMS and do all those things for years, but it's that extra level. It's taking it to the next level because what you've described there is not just an interface is up and down or a device has stopped being polled. It's for some reason I've lost an OSPF neighbor, or for some reason a route's been withdrawn from my ISP's router, or what, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's much more about understanding the impact on a service and the fact that a service may be failing because this element of that delivery of that service is gone. And I think that's the difference.
Yeah, and I think so. I don't want to say I've stopped. This is very greenfield, brand new open source project that I'm working on. I'm doing the gathering of data and sending the data, but there's a couple of things here. One is it's any to any with the little Python bridging that gap, meaning that could be my SolidFire NetApp storage that lost a LUN. That could be a Windows server that the IIS engine has stopped. That could be a PKI certificate's going to expire tomorrow. Anything to anywhere. I could send an SMS, an email, a text message to every provider, Teams, WebEx, Discord, Slack. I can give it in any language in a human MP3 file, which I can also disseminate through the messaging systems or directly to their phone in a phone call. And all of it's still JSON. So all that stuff, if someone says, well, what was the message of the phone call you got? Well, you go to the Git repo and look at Sunday morning at 3 a.m.'s phone call. There's the JavaScript of the contents of that call, right? It's just incredible what we can do with this.
Yeah. And I think that this is the new, definitely for me, the new frontier is using that network data. So this is the point again, isn't it? Is having that network data available to make those kinds of decisions that are a step way beyond, just simple monitoring.
Right. And remediation could easily follow here, right? Like, let's say that call was my show version. That call could be interface GI1 was down. Do you want me to shut it? And I press 1 or 2, and that triggers the appropriate PI in the background that either cycles the port or just stops. Do you want me to escalate this call to the CTO? Press 3. Well, whatever you want, right?
Do you want me to raise a ServiceNow ticket for someone to go look at it? It's
right.
And this is what Abdel was just talking about in terms of the feedback loop, right? That you've all of a sudden got a really simple way of people who aren't in the office, right? Because of whatever reason they're not in the office. There is some reason we're not in office, isn't there? I can't think what it is. But these folk now have a way of actually acting on that problem, and that's got to be the way forward for me.
Well, I see one other thing in here which I find kind of interesting, is that it's an example of a sort of a snowball effect. If you sit, I find this myself with a lot of things, when you sit there and you stare at a blank canvas or a blank whiteboard or a blank VI text file, you just kind of sit there and go, well, what do I do now? But then once you get a little bit of something, you go, well, hey, wait a minute. Maybe I can, bang on this corner here and get it to do something else. I've seen examples of that throughout my entire career. I mean, even back into the early 2000s, where I had to do something with a Tickle script, and I've never written anything in Tickle. Everything I've ever done has been procedural, and state machine stuff makes my head explode. But I had something there, and I went, all right, maybe I can just bang on this corner here and get it to do what I want. I mean, that's hopefully how you can get people excited on that stuff, is just baby step into it. And then once you've got something that's working for you, then you can go, oh, hey, wait a minute. And then it's a lot easier if you've got somebody that's clever and used to doing those sort of things. You can learn how to bang on the corners and expand it to do something that's more relevant to you.
That's a really good point. I mean, the beauty, I suppose, with where we are right now is that so many people are banging on the corners of things that they've been doing for a while and sharing it, right? So you mentioned, John, Rich contacting you and talking to you about Twilio. There'll be countless other people, I should imagine, who'll see this, who'll see your tweets and go, oh, that's like something that I'd really like to do. And all of a sudden, there's people banging on corners all over the place. And it's the power of community, right? And the way things are at the moment is that everyone's sort of really all over this stuff. And I think it's, there's a lot to be said of being part of that as well, right?
Well, it's been a lot of fun, and we talked about this last night. Like, I had a man on the moon moment when I was about 12. So people of a certain generation, you ask them where they were when humans landed on the moon, and they can tell you. I can tell you exactly where I was, what I was wearing when someone first dialed into my BBS system to date myself through my phone from my 2400 baud modem, and I saw HELLO with a question mark. I'm not touching the keyboard, and someone else is communicating to me through this info somewhere out there, right? Yeah, like they're just some random. It didn't feel real, and that really stuck with me. And now, 30 years later, almost exactly 30 years later, I have a Discord channel with a bunch of people coming into the channel, talking and videoing and texting, and I have computers sending me messages, and it's just. And you touched on the community spread. What I think is really neat is, now I don't think the OSI stack has made it down into primary grades yet, but my nephew and niece were asking me when last time I was over before the pandemic, do you know anything about Python, Uncle John? And he's like, he's 10 or 11. And I lit right up, right? Oh yeah, let's go to code.org and let's So within an hour, we had written a Flappy Bird game on his phone through code.org, and I think I got the hook in him a little bit. But I have great hopes for, if we can survive and we all get inoculated and we all make it, right, for the future of the planet, because kids, very young kids, can take, like, for me, object-oriented programming was C++, which was hard. You weren't teaching a 10-year-old how to do pointers in C++, right? but you can teach a 10 or 11-year-old how to make a text-based maze game in Python in a few hours, right? So I think I'm really excited about this. This, and I'm glad that
Mm.
it's fun to find like-minded people that we
The-
sort of like moths to a flame, right? We're all
Yeah.
drawn into this infrastructure as code world together, right?
Yeah, I mean, like the thing for me is it does take me straight back to being a teenage, well, being a preteen, you know, sat at my computer at home writing programs and doing all that stuff, because that's what kids are doing now. You know, it's like this, we have kind of come round, but we're giving them a completely different experience and way beyond anything we could have hoped to have done back then. But it's something we always talk about, you know, of people of our generation, you know, have a particular background in networking. Obviously, we've come up through the, you know, knowing the fundamentals from the ground up, and people perhaps don't have the same desire or necessity to understand things to that level now. But
Right.
it's fun knowing that stuff, right? It's like,
Yeah.
that's the thing. I love that.
The other thing that I always find great about the perspective of kids on stuff, and I can't think of a better way to describe this, but because they, you know, are so new to it, they don't know that something's supposed to be impossible, so they just try to figure out a way to make it happen.
That's so
Yeah,
cool.
that's right.
Yeah, it's hard to tell them that you can't do that, because the immediate answer is why? Why not? Right?
I can see no reason why I can't do it, so I'll just go and do it, right? Yeah, yeah. Maybe there's a bit of that in our generation still from when we were kids. I don't know. I'd like to think so, but you know, it's all about pushing the boundaries and seeing where we can take this thing, right? And you know, I think that's amazing. I think it's awesome. John, it sounds like you're having way too much fun, my friend. But so you're building a project out of this, right? Do you want to tell us a bit more about that and about what you're doing with that?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I part of, you know, to keep myself busy at home, and I'm kind of trapped in my home office and my province is under lockdown, I want to connect and communicate and meet people. And I have this, you know, I've got a decent Twitter following and some people know me on LinkedIn and stuff. And then, like, I'm using freely provided tools. Like Cisco has given away Genie and PyATS. So I didn't see any reason why I shouldn't, if I'm using those tools, why shouldn't I give away, you know, I don't want to even call it my tool, give away this capability that we can all work on together.
Knowledge, right?
Yeah, this knowledge, right? So, and I've actually had a really good response. I've started to do some live coding on Discord and answering questions. And so last night, someone joined the Discord. I gave them a demo, bit more or less what you saw today, walked them through some code. And he said, okay, let me do the NTP command. And I woke up this morning to a tweet with a screenshot of his working NTP command. And it's just amazing, right? So now it's spread to one person, which might spread to 2 to 5 to, right? So it's called Magic Carpet in the theme of the Genie magic.
Right.
And that was that little playbook that I ran there, the PyATS job. And I have a bit of a roadmap, an idea where I'm going to finish iOS XE and then do NXOS and then iOS and then tap into cisco.com's API and Prime and ICE and all the different things. F5 has a wonderful API, so it's not necessarily stuck on Cisco. With a REST API, I can do this stuff. So that's the idea for the project, and it's up on GitHub, and I have a Discord channel, and you can just find me on Twitter and just come and join. And the neat thing is that if you want to do Python, there's Python. If you want to do a little lighter for if type logic, you could work on the Jinja templates. If you want to do front end and make my HTML pages nice and clean and pretty, well, then you can work on the HTML page. Like, it's truly an open community type project that many people can, depending on what they're studying or trying to learn. I need style sheets. I need better Python. I need, there's lots to do here. So yeah, thank you. That's great.
We'll put people in touch with you, mate, because this sounds like a lot of fun you're having there. So yeah. See, look, Abdel is already there thinking what he can do. I can see it.
Now, was one thing to take it further is you don't have to, you don't have to even to go to the keyboard and say to run the script. You can actually say, Alexa, please
I was waiting
yeah,
for that. I was waiting for that.
Tell me more about my network today.
Hey Siri.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I like some more.
Well, yeah.
No, you're right. You're right. So Abdel, we were talking about this last night. I see a world where I walk into my rack with a Bluetooth headset on, and a Bluetooth joins to my fabric, my switch, my router, my firewall, and I talk through my head. Hey, router, show IP route, and the router plays it through my headset through Bluetooth, right? Because it's gone to the internet and done a text to speech and then sent it through to my headphones, right? Right in the rack or in the telecom closet, right? Yeah, like that's what we can start to build.
That's actually a very interesting subject, to be honest, and we can talk about it all for ages.
I think,
believe me, John.
Yeah, I think John, I think we're going to have to get you back, my friend, to talk some more. But,
I'd love to. I'd love to. If you want to have me back, or just come and join the Discord and hang out with me. I love meeting people like you guys. Most people I talk to think he's really from another planet. Like he's what is he talking about? And these are network engineers. This isn't even my family and friends. My family and friends are like, they've written me off a long time ago, right?
Oh, it's just John. It's fine. Mate, welcome to our world. Yeah.
You know what kills me about your headset remark is I can't help, and I'm dating myself with this one. I'm thinking, router shutdown interface G0/2. Like, I'm sorry, John, I can't do that.
You know what? When he was saying that before about the phone calls, that's exactly where my mind was going. That's I can just see Hal in the background there with his orange pulsing light. It's awesome. Listen, John, thank you for your time, mate. That's been really, really good. We'll no doubt be speaking to you again soon. So really, really appreciate your time. All right.
Well,
mate,
stay safe, everybody. Okay,
yeah,
stay safe out there.
And,
all right, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you later.
Abdel. Thanks,
guys.
Elliot. Thanks for joining, guys.
Okay, bye now.
Thanks, guys.
See you soon.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.